Human beings are humans. It doesn't end there.
Humans grow though, right?
Humans grow. Exactly. Humans grow. So
Humans must mature.
So when we
top
talk
of that,
about
you're getting
allies and
charged.
stuff like that, that's how we're able to. That's why it's hard for us to differentiate who's an ally, who's not, right? Like all this money going to Black Lives Matter. Who runs Black Lives Matter?
George Soros.
Okay, George Soros.
Old Jewish Nazi.
What?
George Soros. Old Jewish Nazi. This gentleman is he's the operator of the open source community. Okay. He's involved in destabilizing other governments in Europe. He's been doing it since World War II. There's video footage of him openly talking about all of this. So this is nothing new, but how on earth would you even pay attention to any of that stuff while you're emotionally charged, fighting amongst one another and destroying your own property?
So what's the end game?
The end game is learn. The end game
For us, but what's
learn.
for us?
There is
for us learning. Yeah.
everyone. This is the problem. People feel however they're going to feel, and they want everyone else to cater to them because they're the ones who are actually feeling what they're feeling. This is a problem. This is what you deal with children, not adults. And then unfortunately, as horrific as these things are occurring, as bad as they truly are, you're witnessing stuff that you wouldn't normally witness, but they have always existed. And that's the hard part.
So why haven't we learned?
Distracted.
Okay, so when we compartmentalize the Jewish community, how they resurrected themselves, we look at the indigenous people, how they resurrected themselves. Hell, we look at different foreigners that come in, Vietnamese when they run their stores, Middle Easterns when they come in and run their bodegas and whatever the case, Africans when they come over. The centralized piece of what this nation was founded on, there can't be that many distractions why we can't have a focal point on us.
Yes, they can.
Clearly, right, because we're here, right? We're here. Our end game is what? Humanity, right? This collectiveness of individuals creating a cluster that just creates a fucking big blast of
Consciousness.
right. That is where the learning comes in, right? The information, the education. But there's another TION word, action. What is the action that can be taking place?
Improvement of the individual. You're completely responsible for yourself. It should be your job to take it as far as you possibly can in the right direction. Everyone has been learning since they were born. The problem is they've stopped learning according to their distractions. Most people would rather feel the physiological response of what happens when you get people tweeting you back or liking your pictures, because you're getting a hit of dopamine every single time that happens. So you're conditioning chemically your brain to have this loop. So what you're doing is you're actually conditioning yourself for instant gratification. When you don't get it, you engage the stress response, and here we go all over again with the emotion. So it's a constant cycle that we're all susceptible to go through. And the issue is, if you don't control your emotions, what happens? You set an expectation. Oh, this should be this, because I should be feeling like this. This is how things should be. So you're setting an expectation. An expectation is zero factual evidence, but you formed an opinion on something with zero factual evidence, expecting it to actually occur. When it doesn't occur, the next stage of that is frustration. Your ego has to protect itself, but you can't be wrong. You expected it. So what do? You start getting angry, right? And then it escalates. That escalation leads to you starting to rage. What's going on right now? How many fires have we got to put out? Okay, so now you got that uncontrolled rage, which then is going to lead you to another issue, which is going to be the result. Either you're gonna be satisfied that you did this, or you're gonna express remorse and regret.
At the end of the day, with all that's being done in the world, I look at everything as an evolution. Everything is growing, and even society is growing as you see it right in front of our eyes. You look at the Dr. Martin Luther King and his change that he's impacted in the world. You look at so many other figures who have impacted change in the world, whether it be Mother Teresa, whether it be Gandhi. You know, there's so many people with their own, yeah, you know. But there's a lot of duality in human beings as it is. But when it comes down to you saying the individual, and you know, it's up to them. It doesn't have. It's not just them. It takes a community to affect real change. Well, we disagree. Then I believe a community takes to affect real change.
What is a community made of?
Individuals.
Thank you.
But my point is, those individuals eventually become a community of people to affect change.
I have a question for you, Chidi, and your particular community, African community, right? What, other than you actually doing it, what changes the idealism of what is expected from you?
What do you, can you repeat that?
Right, the expectations of you from your community, right? There's no individuality in that, right? You're expected to be doctor, lawyer, or come into the country and like you can't just come. I know. But that I guess I go. You are an individual. You aren't a part of the community. You understand your community. But you have to form your individual self in order for you to go back into your community and say, "Hey, man, I'm liberated through my creative ventures. I'm not liberated by, you know, being a doctor or studying law or being some type of." There's no facade in that, because I think those are other things that also include the growth of the community. We do need black doctors. And I hope we need black lawyers and things like that. But I was just answering you as far as that's the versus of the community and the individual, right? The individual grows up, right? So we all have 3 different communities we grew up in. Yes. But somehow we are all 3 of the same individual, right? Our mind, our ideologies, if not the same, are around the same bubble. You know what I mean? We're different in age, we're different in backgrounds. Like, so we come from different communities, but our main thing that connects us is the humanity portion of it all. And I think that is the growth you see in society that we see now. Like you said, you went to protest and you saw what you saw in your own eyes. The diversity in that is something we ain't see in our history books.
So that is a community coming together, and I'm not saying community as in black.
Correct. But that's okay. No. Yeah, correct. Yeah. No.
Yeah, fine. I hope that I'm not misunderstood in like the fact that I'm thinking that it's not any responsibility of individuals to grow up or to learn. I'm saying that once you have learned and you are growing in that process, I look at it as a duty to expand that to your community and grow people. So because if I sit here as an individual and I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm like, well, you know, I'm just growing and learning and the world's burning around me, then I personally don't feel well. That's me.
Quick on that though. If you're doing like Brandon said and what you're saying, it's up to other individuals to see you and change them. Right? So that one white person that grew up with a racist father or racist grandfather that was at that protest today, their community was set for them to be somewhere, and that individual decided to take themselves out of that community, place themselves in another community where they're like-minded, not light-skinned, or, you know, like-skinned, not light-skinned, right? And therefore was able to progress that way.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to what Brandon's saying. Like, once you learn, like we came into this willful ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Once you learn, that now is on you to put in action, and then once you put something in action, I guess that's the definition of integrity, right? That's what we learn, right? It's not what you do when people are watching is what you do when no one's watching.
Yeah.
So if you are an ally to any type of situation, what you do when the camera is on is fine. That's what you're supposed to do. When I'm not seeing you in your grocery store, or when I'm not seeing you in the mall, or when I'm not seeing you at the car rental place or something like that, and I just see you and you're not decked out of what you're supposed to be, your celebrity or your presence, that integrity, that person, that humanity, that humaneness, that's that individual.
And we were talking about that before we got on air, when we were talking about people who are talking about the movement and may not be completely authentic. You know, I'm not trying to jump in today, but it's something that we can't see in their hearts. But I said before we got on here that even though we can't see in their hearts, the fact that they're portraying that message, I believe, is good to change the minds of people that they're affecting and to have them think outside the box of maybe what they may have been taught or learned. Because if you're saying we're all humans, then yes, we're all humans, and that does mean that Black Lives Matter. You know, so when I get faced with the All Lives Matter stuff or the Blue Lives Matter stuff, I get it.
You're falling for the trap.
I get it.
Yeah,
And I get it, and I get it, and I'm not trying. I don't debate that stuff, but I'm not gonna go back and forth with people. But when I get that stuff, I do see it as it's sad that we can't. It's sad that people can't say they matter. And people say, "Hey, we see you."
But it is that trigger.
But that's what you're falling for. You're falling for the emotional trigger because you feel a certain way, and because you're not getting affirmation or confirmation to what you're already feeling, you're feeling a confrontation, or you're feeling a conflict.
Even if it's fact. Even if it's
So
fact that all lives matter, and someone, or even if it's, and not just you, but that's emotional. That's the emotional recycling, right?
And I've been also programmed. And I'm not here to say that I'm not susceptible to these things. Because we all are.
Everybody.
So I've had discussions with friends, like friends I grew up with,
That's
that
the
have
hard part.
had completely different visions of what we're seeing. And I got to the point where I'm like, this is not how it's supposed to be. You know, we love each other. Regardless of all this stuff, we love each other as human beings, and we may have different opinions, and we may debate this for the rest of our lives. But I do love you as a person, and I think that we fail to see another person sometimes.
As a what?
Huh?
As a person.
As a what?
As a person.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting topic.
A lot of people aren't seen as people. You know what I mean?
You see?
And when you're
Person. Human.
Mhm.
We spoke about this earlier. There's an issue with language. Language has power. If you don't understand how to use language, it's just like not appropriately handling a tool.